Aloha, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. My name is Sprinklebeard, and today we are going to be doing the Unyielding Gale Cyclone. So, Cyclone here, we are going to put this out right away. I am extremely biased against Cyclone. I genuinely think that he's in the top three of the worst epics in the game. Now, understand that as we review him, I am not going to be showing this specific bias, but I do want to put it out there that if anybody, if this is a champion that you love, or this is a champion you've used to great effect, please comment down below and kind of prove me wrong. I am not going to be crap talking him the whole time, but absolutely, I am going off of imagination here. A lot of what he does or where he is strongest at, I'm having a difficult time thinking of. So everything I'm going to be talking about in this video is going to be heavily theory-based. And let's get right into it. So Cyclone is a magic fighter. Now, this actually is a huge benefit to him over a lot of our other fighters. This does give us a chance for consistent magic damage down on the ground level. Now, this isn't necessarily a huge deal, especially with Cyclone only being able to reach one square ahead of him. However, this does give him advantages against things like skeletons or heavily armored troops. So Cyclone does have a big niche over your physical damage fighters or your normal damage fighters. When it comes to stats, he actually does have decent stats. He has a good HP pool and a very good attack stat, which is kind of funny for how much I dislike him. His defensive stat is good, but his magic resistance is absolutely crap, which is kind of interesting considering the fact that he's a cyclone. Right? He's a crystal. I would kind of assume that he should be the opposite, but it is what it is. His cost is 16, which is very good for a fighter. Attack is 2.6, which is right on par with all of our other fighters. And let's go ahead and get into his skills. So this is one of those weird skills that games keep trying to implement, but it's really hard to balance. So his talent is that he gains a 20% chance to dodge when he's promoted to 5-star. Now, in the video today when I'm demonstrating him, we do not have him 5-star promoted. And to be honest with you, I didn't feel like going and farming the materials to promote him while there's not a leveling up event going on. So for anybody offended by that, I am sorry. It was just a bit too much work for me to showcase him properly. However, one of his skills does rely on him being promoted and having this 20% dodge chance. Because in this game, your champions have a 0% dodge chance. So without him being promoted, you literally can't activate one of his skills, which to me is questionable design, I guess. I think that it should be an additive of his design, not a base of his design. But anyways, let's go ahead and get into his skills. So his first thing is just that he deals magic damage, which again, I want to state is very good for a ground troop. Again, there's plenty of things that are physically resistant, so having a magic damage source is not necessarily a bad thing. He deals 100% damage, and the scales up to 110% damage. Next, we're going to go to his ultimate, which is Wind Cage. It is 400 rage cost, so it is extremely cheap for you to get to it. This means you should feel like he's constantly spamming out his ultimate. He knocks back blocked enemies with 2x strength, dealing 140% damage and inflicting a stun on them. Now, this is a decent ult, except I don't like that it is blocked enemies. So this means that he is going to be the one blocking them. He's not going to be able to attack from the side or blow units away and then have their AI have to figure out their way back. It means that he has to be blocking them, and that means that he will push them in that direction. This also kind of sucks that you can't do those shenanigans, right? That if, let's say in this example where my mouse is in this cell, we had our defender and the troops, the enemies, were trying to run through that defender to the crystal behind him. Using Cyclone here, we could push them away or back into a lane potentially right in front of like some of our other damage dealers. But in this case, no, it's kind of like he just delays himself from being attacked during this. It's still not necessarily a bad ultimate. However, the damage on it is quite low compared to a lot of other fighters. So we have 140% damage here, and this scales up to 200%. And then our stun duration increases from 1.5 seconds to a total of 2 seconds. That is at least very nice. And the fact that this is on a short cooldown, once we get into actually testing him out, we'll see how frequently this happens. But it's going to be useful that he is going to survive longer. He's going to kind of feel like a pseudo defender because he's just going to be constantly pushing things back away from him. And for champions where that matters more, so things like Nyx, where they want to attack enemies farther away from them, this is going to be advantageous. This also means that if we put like Valkyra behind him, that means that as things get close, if they're not dead already, him being able to push them back again means Valkyra can just sit there laying into them, or any other of your casters or your archers up top can just be constantly firing holes into the target. So it's one of those things. I love this as an ult concept, but the fact that it's blocked enemies and not just like all enemies in that one square in front of him is unfortunate, although I do have some funny places that I am going to recommend him for. Finally, he does have a passive. So after a dodge, so again, this means you have to promote him, and he only has a 20% dodge chance. I have not seen an artifact in this game that increases your dodge chance either. After a dodge, the next attack deals 110% damage and knocks back enemies with 2 times the strength. I am a little curious about this 110% damage because like here we're doing 100%. So is it an extra 110% damage that scales up to 200? Or is it that you're just doing 200% damage here? Either way, it is still extra damage for the most part. So it will feel good. And I like that his dodge also has that knockback effect to it, so that it's not just your ultimate that you're heavily relying on. You could potentially dodge an attack, blow everything away, and then if like 2 more enemies came in, you're then using your ultimate to blow them away as well. So I will say when we go out to test him, that he should be fun for sure. Design-wise, I do think he kind of looks cool. I like how he has this armor that is broken and then is like swirling around in him. And then I like the fact that his eyes glow the same color as the crystal. That is good synergy. That like has it make sense. I like his hands, although they kind of look like they're wrapped in bandages. That is the one thing though. I do wish that they were this glowing pinkish purple, this magenta color. But again, that is personal opinion. Design-wise, I do think he looks really cool. I remember when I got him and I was like, oh my gosh, I see nobody else ever playing with him, and he's magic. I'm going to build him up. And then I read through his kit and was like, oh, he's a dodge champion. And dodge is incredibly hard for games to balance, because if you consider that you're either taking damage or you're taking 0 damage, how game-breaking that can be, and then having a scaling or a sliding chance to dodge like Kaniza has does mean that it's kind of hard to balance it out properly, because if your champion just keeps dodging attacks, they're never taking damage. So then you need to have guaranteed damaging attacks, or things like magic damage where, okay, maybe they can't dodge it because it's magic, but then that makes them extra weak to magic. Because if you're planning on your champion to dodge, constantly, it is what it is, though. Anyways, faction-wise, he's an esoterist. The big thing with esoterists, and I want to start covering this in more videos, the Lord skills that we have here, they reduce the allies, the faction allies' skill cost by 25%. The big reason that this is a huge note is that if we're reducing this by, 25% or even 15% for that matter, we're reducing this by roughly 100, putting it from a fast ultimate to a very fast ultimate. So lots of wind blowing there. Let's move on to his awakening. After a dodge, his damage increases by 15% for 10 seconds. I do really like this. With a dodge chance of 20%, this means you have a 1 in 5 chance when being struck to dodge and get a power boost. And again, his attack stat is not bad, right? It is 4,800. Crap, I lost Cyclone. It was 4,800, I believe, right? Yeah, 4,800. If we compare him to certain other characters like Deimos, 3,333. I'm not going to compare him to the Vikings because we know that they have obscenely high attack stats. But let's say like Diamond, who's a grenade, 3,200, which kind of just makes some of these other champions look less impressive. But he is a magic-based champion. So here he's kind of on par with Ein, who I've already done a video covering him and expressed how much I like him. But to put things into comparison, he is a magic damage version of Wrath. And we talk about how ridiculous Wrath is in this game. So I will say an extra 15% damage baked into his kit that when he dodges, he's doing more damage, I do think gives him credence for being very good. Crit rate plus 5%. Always love this. Again, I'll make the same comment I make everywhere. I wish this was 8%. I still love that it's 5%, right? It's still extra crit rate. Restores 10% HP after knocking back a target. So this can happen during your passive or during your wind cage, which is your ultimate. So absolutely love this. This gives him some self-sustain. And then even better is that you've been hit once or twice and then you were to dodge. You gaining back 10% of that life makes your healer's job easier or can be very clutch in certain fights. What I also like is that this would work on bosses as well. Penetration plus 5%. So that's just extra 5% damage going through. I absolutely love it. Inflicts curse on the targets after knocking them back. So curse is part of like a curse comp that you can do. So Comet is kind of the biggest champion that has really big effects from cursing enemies. However, there are champions like Jean Carr, where when he blocks targets, enemies affected by curse will also be applied with a magic vulnerability. And then he also has, like, whenever adjacent enemies inflicted with curse die, he restores 5% HP. So there are some hilarious shenanigans you can do. In terms of Awakening 5, this is really, really weird and honestly quite terrible. The reason I say this is that a cursed target cannot do a basic attack for 3 seconds. So after you knock them back and they can no longer reach you, you curse them. That's a really weird design choice that I don't understand. I don't know what I would replace it with, right? Logically, hear me out, logically would be one of those things that maybe when you push a target, if it collides with another target, it deals damage. Or if it collides with terrain, it would deal damage to them. I think that would be a really cool mechanic, or have a big reason for you awakening into 5. Some of his skilled damage also doesn't look like amazing, right? This is only like 200% on his ultimate. And then 100 damage on his basic attack. And then his passive is a up to 200%. We're going to have to see how he plays through like a full level, but logically those damage numbers feel really low. So like his Awakening 5, it's very strange. I would almost feel like this would be better as like his Awakening 1 or something. And that this, after a dodge, his damage increases by 15%. Would feel a lot better as his Awakening 5, or have that number scale up higher, right? Like now it scales up to 30%. Or he gets extra dodge chance, right? Give him an extra 10 or 13% chance. So it gets him up to a 33% chance. I think there's a lot of wiggle room for what you could do with him. So next, let's talk about where he's most useful. So, we're going to go into a promotion raid first, and we'll just go ahead and use him in there. Let me make sure I have my other 2 champions, my backup champions in gear, which I do not. Guys, this new gear swap is really, really impressive, and I love the design of it. Let me know what you guys think of this. This is something I can't explain how much I love this. I was working on my Infernal things earlier, and having this ability just to quickly glance and be like, oh, cool, I can move things around very, very fast, feels amazing. So right now I do have Cyclone in, I do have Cyclone in our best damaging gear. So I do want to be able to show him off. Our daily time switched over. So sorry, let me collect some nonsense. Game, I'm trying to do things. All right, let me buy the troops because the day switched over. Okay. Let's get back to it. Let's first go ahead and use him in content so I can actually see how good he is or how ridiculous he can be. Who doesn't need experience? Everybody needs experience. We'll pull you out. Senior Cyclone. You have the Zigir. Where is he? There he is. So we are going to give Cyclone his own lane. So interesting. He throws little balls at the enemy, which is not what I was expecting from him in the slightest here. But Aracha will be able to take care of everything else. But so here's Cyclone using ultimate. And obviously these little skeletons are not going to be able to stand up to some of our best gear. And that's okay. We don't need them to. So what's really interesting, every attack, he is jumping up in rage. Like this rage regen that he has is like just chunking up. So it's really cool to see him not only just one-shotting everything, and he's not fully promoted either. He's at a 3-star promotion. So this will be a good testing moment here. So let's give him backup just in case he dies. He shouldn't die, but there's always that chance for sure. Little twister. You've got tiny twisters. What is nice is I do feel like he's got good reach for that one tile considering. We didn't really see him blow anything away because he was just killing things way too quickly. But very, very cool. Absolutely did pretty well. He got about, I think that was 5 ultimates off in that stage. So if you like things like we were talking about with Idril, or have champions that synergize with really fast ultimates. So some of the champions I think of off the top of my head, we have champions like Idril who have combo shots. So whenever an ally casts their ultimate, this hero's next attack will do an additional 100% damage. That with somebody like Cyclone, where he's just constantly throwing out ultimates, will feel very, very good. Champions like Laurel do have this passive that grants a damage increase. So when fully skilled up it's supposed to be 20%. I don't know why it's only showing 10% there, but should be 20%. For 8 seconds. So the fact that Cyclone could be constantly using his ultimate and gaining a 20% damage increase as long as Laurel stays out, if you're not unsummoning her, that is some really fun synergy to say the least. And again, there are champions that they deal more damage the further they are away. So Aracha, her Lord skill, for every 1 tile away from the target, increases their damage by 5%, scaling up to 50%. This affects all your other piercers specifically. So having this extra damage bonus, Cyclone could have some good synergy here of pushing things away so that your piercers are doing more damage or have more time to do their damage before the targets get in. So Cyclone, where is he going to be best used at? So anywhere where we need a ground unit to block things off and where we need magic damage. So in the campaign, he's actually going to be a lot of fun to use in the campaign. Just be wary that he's like, you would have to promote him to get that dodge chance. So until you take him up to 5-star, you're not going to be able, and 5-star and fully promote him, you're not going to be able to rely on that dodge chance reliably. And I would say that's a huge part of his kit, or like literally half of his kit is dodging and then that passive doing that damage. That damage and pushing things back. So with that being said, if you like Cyclone, make sure to take him up to 5-star as quickly as possible, and then to instantly take him into those promotion raids and promote him as fast as possible. As we saw with good gear, he can just go around one-shotting everything. With him only having a 20% chance to dodge, I would not trust him to like hold a lane indefinitely by himself. You're definitely going to want at least a healer with him, and then make sure that you have enough damage coverage for him to, you know, in case he does die, in case he gets popped, or blown away. But yeah, he'll be perfectly fine in anywhere in the campaign. In the Void Rift, there's plenty of areas where we need a lot of magic damage, and there's some big elite guards that I don't have the ability to test this theory out yet. It would be in campaign 9. I'll try to do it later. But if you can blow away the big slow moving guards, if they are not immune to being knocked back, Cyclone doing magic damage to them, Cyclone having a chance to dodge their attacks, and the fact that he could blow them back, all could lead Cyclone to being super amazing. And this also applies in the faction trial. So I will test it out tomorrow's Cultist. So in 2 days, on Wednesday, I'll be able to test it out and try to, if somebody reminds me, I'll put a note on the video saying, yes, I tested it and it worked as I thought it did, or no, it was a horrible idea. I lost faster than ever. In the arena, where would he best be used at? So ironically enough, for your single target damage, I could argue he has a good use there. Whether or not he can blow things back might not matter, but if you can keep him alive, his chance to dodge and then retaliate damage, he does have a counterattack gimmick in his kit, but you would need to make sure that you have a healer to keep him alive. So you could use him as your tank in single target damage, and then whenever he dodges, he's attacking back. Voroth, I think, would be better, or there's other champions like Wrath, where once you gain the lifesteal from them, you're doing a whole lot more damage more consistently. And maybe that's the point of the curse, is that you can curse enemies that you sometimes can't blow back. So maybe when, with him fully awakened, if you're not blowing back those enemies, you're maybe then cursing them since you tried to blow them back. I'm not sure exactly how the game's going to code that, but it's a thing. When it comes to things like the AoE arena or flying arena, absolutely not. I wouldn't bring him there. I don't think he will ever like hold up his end. For the sustained DPS, I do think that he could be very good for that. It just depends on where you place him and how his blowback mechanic actually works. When it comes to raids, absolutely not for the marksman unless you want experience. Everything else he would be terrific in. Mages, we want magic damage there. So ironically enough, he does super synergize really well in there of doing magic damage and blocking off a lane for us. In things like the endurance and melee attack, endurance things are constantly taking poison damage. So if he dodges any damage or blows things back, that just means that they are taking more and more damage before they reach him again. So absolutely fine in endurance, and in melee attack we just showed that he held a lane by himself, although he was one-shotting everything. Ivy the Man, thank you very much for the follow. Guild Boss, I don't think that this is going to be a good place for him. However, your chance to dodge attacks and the fact that the Guild Boss only attacks 4 times before going into that giant breath attack, I do think that he has a good place, that he could be good here. Specifically, I would want to see increased magic damage or magic resistance shred before bringing him specifically to Dragon. One of the other things of note is while the Dragon's doing that giant charged breath attack, you would not ever be getting off that counter attack or that dodge chance. So I don't think it's the best place for him. Artifact Material Raid, absolutely yes. Not only are you doing magic damage, which the boss should be weaker to magic. I don't have a way to reliably prove or disprove this. I guess I could take Wrath and Cyclone in the same gear and see how much damage they do, and then say whoever did more damage, specifically in non-crit gear, whoever does more damage, you know, the boss is weaker to that side. The bigger thing is his ability to dodge and then counterattack does give you an advantage to either using him as an off tank or to stop those little minions from crawling in and joining the main host. Tide is another good place that I would recommend for him. There's so many enemies coming, so him blocking 2 and then dodging and blowing them back lets all your other damage dealers do a whole lot of damage. So I do think Tide is a good place for him. Resource Raid. This is an excellent place for him. All the enemies here do very, very little damage anyways, so it's not like you even need a healer. But the fact that if he dodges anything or during his ultimate, he blows them back into the lane. And I know for a fact that the Goblin Kings can be affected by movements. We've done it with like Aeon. We've pulled enemies towards us. So him being able to blow away those enemies as well is going to feel very good. That gives you extra damage time. And if they're blown away, this means that he can go to blocking other units instead. Gear Raids. In Gear Raid 1, everything here is weak to magic damage. So you could absolutely bring him here. I don't know if you would necessarily want to place him in front of the wall until you get really good gear on him. But whenever he dodges, that he would do that that counter attack and blow that thing away, again, gives you more time for your mages to do more damage. Gear Raid 2, if he dodges, he's going to feel amazing here. Equally said, if he doesn't dodge that 80% of the time, I absolutely see him dying very, very quickly. Use at your own risk in Gear Raid 2, or if you use him in Gear Raid 2 and he dodges and then you save that run, let me know if he dodges every single time, because that's going to be a huge deciding factor. Gear Raid 3, absolutely not. Please don't bring him here, not even for experience. Faction trials. So in the basic trial, we do need to bring 3 mages. Now, he doesn't necessarily count as a mage. However, everything in the basic trial is weak to magic damage. So by bringing him here, he will do very noticeable damage. And his chance to dodge does mean that he will be good from some of the big heavy hits that the enemies have here. However, he might die quickly. So just be cautious with that. Again, a lot of champions that are based around dodging, they usually don't have large HP pools or large defensive stats. And admittedly, I forgot to look at his defense compared to other champions. So he's also an esoterist, right? In the esoterist faction trials, we have a lot of slow moving enemies that are weak to magic damage. If you can blow them back, again, this is a very big if statement that I need to go and test out. He is going to feel absolutely amazing here. He's going to be doing magic damage to them, which everything in the esoterics is weak to magic, but his ability to blow things back will make him feel very good, or will set things up for your other champions. So if you're using champions like I who are throwing out crystal bombs, you potentially could blow an enemy back into a bomb radius. For any of your other magic damage dealers, so like Gonkba, if he's slowing things down and then you push him back into range of Gonkba could be doing his magic damage and slowing things down again. There is a lot of hilarious synergy that pushing an enemy back so that your champions have the ability to attack again, gives Cyclone some hilarious merit to him. However, would I say that he's a staple or that you should heavily invest in him? Not necessarily, right? I don't think that he's an awful champion now that I've reviewed him and now that we got to see him in good gear. In our version of him, he is level 41, and he's only 3-star promoted. So he's not even heavily promoted, and he was nearly one-shotting everything. So that means as an epic champion, his damage is very good for a fighter. But again, I personally have a hard time mentally justifying him. So other hilarious things of note is like Selkath, as he throws his bubbles, the farther that they travel, they gain size and damage. So ironically enough, if Selkath threw a bubble at a target and then Cyclone pushes them back, he would actually help Selkath's damage scale upwards. Again, things like Laurel, he'll be doing extra damage constantly, so that will feel good. Things like Nassault, if he poisons or burns something, and then you blow that enemy back, they're taking that extra burn damage and allowing Nassault to form more chemicals. And the big thing that I want to mention for Cyclone that I forgot to mention earlier, where Cyclone will be good at. In Gear Raid 1, we have a redonkulous mechanic on Gear Raid 1-19, where we are fighting a healing boss. And the way that the boss heals, it seems to have a direct heal, and then it also has a puddle effect, where it puts a puddle on the ground that heals anything standing in that puddle. I would say that there is an argument for Cyclone being magic damage in Gear Raid 1, means he'll do plenty of damage, that if he dodges or if he uses his ult, he could be pushing enemies either out of the healing puddle or pushing enemies backwards away from the wall, which means that if the healing puddle ends up there, it's not as useful as the healing puddle being up against your wall. So I will argue, I will put out there that I think that Cyclone not only could be good in Gear Raid 1, but actually has some really hilarious potential in Gear Raid 1. Am I going to be the player to try this out first? Probably not. I think it's a hilarious concept, but one of the biggest things is his ultimate. He has to knock back targets that he is blocking. I don't see only knocking back 2 enemies to be enough, right? That's another thing, is that like I feel like this wind cage. First off, wind cage makes no sense for blowing things back, but whatever. But I more see often him dodging and then his next attack blowing one enemy back with 2 strength being more fascinating. If this was he could blow like up to 5 enemies back, I would probably like Cyclone a whole lot more. Him only being able to blow 1, maybe 2 enemies back at a time, it's not enough for me. It's not enough. And I think it's going to be a hilarious thing. I think Cyclone's probably going to be that really funny champion to play with. But do I think he's a very good champion? Maybe, right? Again, he has single target magic damage. Let's see, 21 by 16. Let's see how he compares to other fighters. So 21-16. Very, very good HP stat. But low defensive stat. 21-16, so he's right on par with Ein. And that makes sense because if they dodge, it's going to be the same thing. 21 and 16 defense. So yeah, he's got a very, very large HP pool, but kind of low defenses. So he's going to be relying on that dodge or relying on being healed in order to be very noticeable. But guys, that is it for Cyclone. If any of you play with Cyclone and you like him or you have some great stories, please let me know. This champion seems like he seems like a fun and interesting design. I just don't like that it's tied to this dodge chance. And I don't know if I would like it any better if it was just he has a 20% chance to retaliate with Gale. Like the dodge chance is nice, especially considering the fact that he's a whole bunch of air. I just feel like there's other things that you could have done with him, or the fact that he can blow things away would have been really cool if it wasn't just blocked enemies. If he could, blow things into terrain or blow enemies into other enemies, and maybe when they collided, they would get stunned. I think that would be a much more interesting concept for him. But we'll have to see what the game decides to do, or if they ever update him. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like this video, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. It helps me out tremendously when you do so. If you want to join us over at twitch.tv/Sprinklebeard, I stream every day, Sunday through Wednesday, semi-reliably. Once my overtime kicks back up, I will probably be returning to work and my stream schedule will go to crap. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, until that next time, ta-ta.